Iron Monkey presents The Lazaretto Letters. Episode 1, Lester and the Lazaretto. A few years ago, I came into possession of a remarkable collection, a large stockpile of handwritten letters from 1922, all originating from a quarantine station, an island hospital known as the Lazaretto. Nearly every letter remains stamped, sealed, undelivered, and in pristine condition. I'll admit, it felt a bit sketchy to open and read someone's private letters, but after 100 years, I felt that their stories had been suppressed and needed to be heard. Besides, there may be some historical significance within the old pages. I expected to find correspondence about hardships between the sick and their families. Instead, I discovered mind-bending and fantastical writings, some bordering on the supernatural. Individually, they made little sense, but collectively, they began to paint a picture of something dark and strange happening on that island. Names began repeating, and stories started to connect. Some letters referenced others I hadn't read yet, describing impossible events. The more I read, the more I realized they were part of a larger and darker story. Side note, I'm from a generation that was taught cursive, but I have to admit transcribing them was more challenging than expected. Oh, and how I acquired the letters is a story unto itself. More on that later. For now, my goal is to read one letter a week and try to connect the dots. I thought about putting them in chronological order, but not all of them include dates. It makes more sense to me to group them by conversation or subject. That brings me to the first letter. I chose it because it's from a new patient who described his first day's experience at that island hospital. It paints a picture of the environment from someone with fresh eyes, but also hints at the darkness to come. And with that, I hope you enjoy the Lazaretto Letters. Today's letter is from Lester Billington, addressed to Hugh Billington, Syracuse, New York, stamped, sealed, and unpostmarked, Monday, May 29th, 1922. Dear brother, I've finally arrived and settled into this place they call Sing Sing for the Sickly. It's been quite a long and interesting day that started with a remarkable train voyage. We set off on our short journey, and the train chugged along the tracks, puffing out thick clouds of smoke and steam as we made our way toward the bridge that would carry us to Lazaretto Island. I've since learned that Lazaretto is an old name for a quarantine station, mostly used by sea travelers. The name comes from Lazarus, the fellow Christ raised from the dead. Quite the fitting name for a place where we're meant to recover, don't you think? I still can't wrap my head around why they've packed me off to a quarantine island. I don't exactly have the plague, and I feel the worst is behind me. But good old Doc McKenna told me it was a precaution for the community, and influenza is nothing to sneeze at. I didn't laugh. Still, he's a good chap, so I won't question his suggested course of action. Back to my excursion. As we made our way along the bridge, I felt the tracks clack and rattle beneath my feet, and the whole train shook and shuddered around me. The wind whipped past, tugging at my hair and clothes, and I could see but not hear the water below. The bridge seemed to stretch endlessly, the land vanishing behind us while the water expanded in every direction. It felt like we were floating, the earth giving way to an overwhelming expanse of sea. Despite my illness, a warm feeling of glee came over me for a few moments. The bridge began to elevate as we approached the island. I imagined the train car ascending into the sky, pulled by Pegasus himself. For a fleeting second, I forgot my worries, soaring above the ocean in a world of myth and wonder. Alas, the fantasy soon faded as the shadows of the bridge and train were revealed over the water, until I caught sight of my future home. The real world came rushing back with a steady huff of the engine and the coal smoke filling my lungs. At first glance, the hospital was quite stunning. Its towering structure loomed like a fortress over top a sheer rock face, dark spires clawing at the blue sky. The Victorian Gothic architecture felt as though it had emerged from some dark fairy tale, with its weathered stone walls whispering secrets in the salty air. As impressive as it was, my apprehension grew as its interior remained a mystery to me. To my surprise, the train continued past the hospital, and I glimpsed a stately courtyard with a few patients wandering about. To the far side of the courtyard, an impressive manor was built in a similar brooding style as the hospital, and beyond that, an expansive wooded area. A gravel road was situated at the end of the courtyard. It divided the courtyard from the wooded area. This small forest appeared to have paths winding through it. As I lost myself looking deep into the trees, something else caught my attention. Up ahead, I saw a man standing alongside the tracks. He was dressed in hospital attire, so it was safe to assume he was a patient. He was watching the train like a hawk, staring into each car as if he were searching for someone. For some reason, I found this unsettling. I can't explain why, but I couldn't help feeling uncomfortable as my car approached him. I considered sliding over in my seat to avoid his gaze, but I was also intrigued by his actions and by his looks. He was young, but seemed to bear the same premature gray hair that I have. My car reached him, and our eyes locked. This is where things took a turn for the strange. Time seemed to slow down. The sounds around me dulled as I became particularly focused on this individual. Now, I know this will sound completely mad, and I don't expect you to believe me, but this man was me. Not just an uncanny resemblance, it was me. My heart skipped a beat. I blinked and blinked again, but there was no mistake. The same face that stares back at me when I shave, the same eyes, the same hair, the all too familiar wrinkled brow. Other than the attire, there seemed to be one single difference, and it struck me as ghastly. What at first appeared to be a dark, thin beard revealed itself as blood. Blood that seemed to have originated from his ears, turning into tiny rivers that ran down his jawline and pooled at his chin. His gaze locked on mine, and his actions changed dramatically. He gestured wildly and shouted something that was drowned out by the hissing of the slowing steam engine. He attempted to run and match the train's speed, but lost his footing and tumbled to the ground after a few steps. And then he was gone, out of sight. A cold, hard knot of fear twisted in my gut, freezing me to my seat. An overwhelming fear of dread flooded my body, quickly sinking into my stomach, leaving me quite nauseous and bewildered. I sat there, wide-eyed and utterly flummoxed. My mind was racing and battered with questions. Was this my twin? There was no mistaking the resemblance. Was this me somehow, existing in two places at once? I reached up to feel if my ears were bleeding. Nothing. Was this a ghost? If so, how does one see a ghost of himself? And what was he trying to tell me? Had I died, and this train was taking me on my last journey to the afterlife? But I honestly don't know why I had such a negative feeling. I tried to change my outlook, to think how wonderful. I have a long-lost twin. But the dread was all-consuming. Did anyone else see him? For that matter, could anyone see me? I got a bit anxious when a crewman ignored my greeting, but found relief when I poked him on the shoulder. The odd look I received was well worth the comfort of knowing I actually existed. I asked him if he noticed a man on the side of the tracks, and he said he had not. It didn't confirm my paranoia, but it didn't diffuse it either. Less than a minute later, the train came to a halt at a small platform with an accompanying station. We exited the train car and assembled into a cart that would take us to the hospital. There was no sign of, well, me on the short journey to my new home. A new curiosity piqued my interest and settled my nerves. There was a Ferris wheel just beyond the trees. There was no one aboard, so I'm not sure if it's abandoned or not. Odd indeed, but I thought it was nice to see and think about something other than my encounter. Thankfully, my unease began to subside as we approached the hospital. After all, it was a lovely day, sunny with a cool breeze, with seemingly friendly people walking about. Inside, the hospital is nothing to write home about, no pun intended. It lacks the dramatic, ornate detailing of the exterior. It's a bit cold and drab, but in good enough shape, and seems to run efficiently. Not that I'm complaining. It's clean and not nearly as crowded as I expected. I even have a room to myself. That was a nice surprise. The staff seems friendly enough, ranging from older, stern taskmasters to giggling young nurses. One in particular caught my eye. Her name is Mary, and she's an absolute peach. Her presence alone seems to brighten the dreary confines of this institution. Her cascading ebony hair framed her face with an almost ethereal beauty. Her dark, fathomless eyes possessed a depth and warmth that are both enchanting and reassuring. They sparkled with a kindness that instantly puts one at ease. Around her neck, she wears a simple cross, a testament to her faith, which perhaps lends her the strength to face the daily tribulations of her vocation. Her voice was a soothing balm, a melodious blend of her native Italian and our English, spoken with a lilt that is utterly charming. I know what you're thinking. Mother would throw a conniption if I brought home an Italian girl, let alone a Catholic. After some waiting and watching, they officially checked me into the Lazaretto. While doing so, I retold the story of my double to an orderly, then asked if there were any other patients that resembled me. A couple of nurses looked me over and suggested a few names to each other. One by one, they rejected each name for various reasons. Either the patients were no longer on the island, or they had unfortunately passed away. "Doppelganger," a gritty old patient explained in a thick accent. "Pardon me?" "Doppelganger," he said again, cutting off a nurse. I stared at him, thinking he was cursing at me. "Ach, so you want to know about the doppelganger, yeah? It is a very strange and mysterious phenomenon, my friend. The doppelganger is like a shadow self, an exact copy of a person that appears in another place at the same time. It is said to be an omen of death or misfortune, and it has been the subject of many tales and legends throughout history. Some believe that the doppelganger is a manifestation of the person's own subconscious or a supernatural entity. But in any case, it is not something to be trifled with. If you ever encounter your own doppelganger, be very careful, my friend. It could mean that your time on this earth is coming to an end. Do not ignore the warning signs, or you will regret it." The room fell silent. All eyes shifted from the old man to me. I chuckled nervously, trying to break the tension. "One more thing," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You know what the old stories say about seeing your doppelganger. First time, you fear. Second time, you bleed. And the third time, you die." A chill crawled up my spine, but I forced a smile. "Well, ain't that a kick in the teeth?" I managed to say. A few of the nurses attempted to comfort me, laughing off the old man's warning, calling him a relic of an old world. One of the orderlies even scolded him, but his words stuck with me all the same. As they wheeled me away, I turned back to catch one last glance. His eyes were still fixed on me, a knowing smile playing on his lips. It sent another wave of unease through me. Was he toying with me? Or was there a deeper truth in his words? I couldn't tell if the amusement I saw in his eyes was malicious or simply that of a man who had seen too much. They say comedy takes the pain away. I learned fear can do the same. I suddenly became unaware of my symptoms, consumed by a growing sense of dread and impending doom. My chest felt tight, and a cold sweat dampened my brow. For a moment, I wished the illness was all I had to worry about. They took me to my new home, a small and tidy room with 2 beds. As I mentioned, I was lucky enough to get a room to myself, at least for the night. An older, efficient nurse soon appeared, took my temperature, and inquired about my symptoms. She promptly returned with a glass of water and some type of elixir. I drank it down, hoping it would calm my nerves and prepare me for a good night's rest. Instead, I lay there, my mind racing, reliving my previous spectral encounter. Was it real? Could I have imagined it? Or was the old man right? I didn't inquire about wandering the halls at night, but I assumed it wasn't encouraged. Instead, I got up, stretched, and peered out my window at the courtyard, blanketed by moonlight. The trees swayed gently in the wind, casting long shadows that seemed to dance in the faint silver light. I enjoyed the view, but I wished I were stationed on the water side of the building. Indeed, that would be glorious. As I pondered this, a slight movement in the courtyard caught my attention. A figure emerged from the shadow of the trees, standing eerily still. A man was standing alone in the darkness, near the tree line. Backlit by the moonlight, he appeared as a dark shadow, the glow of a cigarette contrasting with his otherwise formless silhouette. I allowed my eyes to adjust, and it seemed he was looking back at me. The more I stared, the more familiar he seemed. My stomach twisted in knots. Was it him? I became conscious of the fact that I was bathed in moonlight, and I felt quite exposed. I backed away from the window and got back into bed, my pulse quickening. Again, my mind began to race. Who was watching me? Was it my double again? I really couldn't make out any details, other than that it was a tall and slender man. Perhaps I'm just being paranoid. I've heard that long stays at hospitals can play tricks on a man's mind. But this is ridiculous. I've been here less than a single day. To calm myself, I decided to focus my thoughts and write you this letter. Writing always helps clear the fog in my mind. Quite a day for my first. I'll write back soon. Yours, in disquiet, Lester. The Lazaretto Letters is a podcast produced and distributed by Iron Monkey. To share your reflections, lend your aid, or explore the mysteries of the Lazaretto Letters, visit Iron Monkey at enterthemonkey.com. Thank you for listening.